I get asked all the time what makes Lego Serious Play so effective. And I could tell you, I could rattle off all of the facts and the research behind it, but that's not really what folks want to hear when they ask me this question. What they're really wondering is how has it specifically helped some of my clients be more effective, manage through projects, and overcome a lot of their change management hurdles. So instead of talking to you and telling you what I think, I've invited one of my clients here to share with you what made it so effective for them.
The whole reason why we were engaging with you and on the rubric and things like that is to build a rubric for the standardization of call feedback and call delivery for a group of 40, 50, 60 folks globally who are all approaching engagements with customers in different ways. And the standardization is key for us for a couple of reasons. One, first and foremost, putting the customer first is so that customers get, regardless of who they engage with, get a pretty similar experience with HubSpot and get a good experience with HubSpot across the board. And then the second one, which is almost as important, is making sure that the CSMs delivering the calls are getting standard feedback and consistent feedback from managers across the globe that are going to help them grow their skill set and grow their ability to have those conversations. So that's where we started the engagements with you and in the conversation overall. But one of the areas in particular that HubSpot's focused on, this year and that we're focused on in our scaled CS team is driving usage. And we have a metric around usage that is very accurate and very good. But we were starting to find that in coaching to and talking to usage, it became very, very tactical. Use this, click this, do this. Here's that, almost a show and tell of the tools to try and get people to use them all, as opposed to digging in on business pain points and business needs and areas where the tools that we want them to use can certainly solve, but we were rushing right to solutioning with using more tools because it benefits customers to use more tools, and it behooves HubSpot to have customers using more of their tools because they see more value. So that metric, the unified usage score, was too focused on, it was not too focused on the tools, but it's very focused on the tools for good reason, but was driving conversations that weren't, leading to those consulting or coaching calls. So we were trying to marry both the desire to have, those metrics that we care about also with the rubric. And that's why we, continued the discussion with you.
Awesome. Yeah. And yeah, at the point that we decided to break out the Legos, it was the realization of, you can over rotate from one thing to another. And that happens a lot when you're trying to solve a problem, is you can actually get tunnel vision in the other direction. And so how could we bring these two projects closer together, de-silo them, because different folks were different, working on different areas. Um, Excellent. Okay. So, anything else that you feel is important to share before we dive
No,
into the
I think that's
actual
pretty much
builds?
it. It's just finding the happy medium in between those two is important for us and proved to be I don't want to say more difficult, but more layered problem than we originally anticipated, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the case with a lot of things. Is you get into the thick of it and you realize that there's so much more. Either you're so vision focused, you didn't think about the tactical, or some folks are so tactical and they realize, wait, we got to take a step back and pop up even more strategically. So let's talk about the build and what happened in the
Yeah.
build. Okay, so I'm gonna share some photos from the day so we can talk it through. Okay, so here's you and your colleagues building on that first build. We did the tower, and love to hear what was your experience starting with this build. What did it do for all of you?
Well, personally, as a lifelong Lego fan from the time I was a child and now dad of two, avid builder of Legos, for me, it honestly just kind of took my brain off of what I was perceiving to be the task at hand and put my brain very focused on an area of just delivering. Oops, sorry about that. Delivering something, simple and easy, like build this tower, do this thing. It just got me out of constructs and rubrics and all these things that my wheels were probably turning on before that call. And so, just got me focused on something simple, which I think a lot of times has a really good like mind clearing effect. And then the second thing was, it was really interesting to see visually, like very tactically. Here I am, very excited talking about my tower.
You were really excited. It was great.
But just the different approaches that people have to the same prompt, and like what people I worked shoulder to shoulder with for years had a very different way of going about doing this. Like everything from sorting to building to constructing to all that stuff was just different across the board. And it was a good, like very visual and tactile reminder of the fact that we all approach these things differently too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing the conversations that emerged in as each of you talked about your tower and then talked about each other's towers. It really brought out the strengths. You all bring strengths and you're all wired differently. And that's what makes a great working group if you can tap into those different strengths. So that was really great to see. And I think important to also share out with everyone who listens to this is there are different strengths that are coming into this project and looking at it from the different angles. And so, what one person builds for, we've got our little green Post-it notes here. Some people build for tallness or wideness, building for your Lego person or building for the placement of the person. You organize at the beginning and then you dive in, and other folks, it's spreadsheet all the way. And so, thinking about that's actually informing this project, which is great. We don't have all people working on this project who all think in the exact same way. There's a diversity of thought, and so we're bringing that together. Awesome. So that was just our warm up, getting loose with the Legos, even though, I mean, you build on like a weekly basis with your kiddos, making sure everyone was comfortable with Legos if they hadn't built in a while. And then also crossing that divide of, I'm building a ship, I'm building my Lego school bus, and I'm building for my thinking and hands-on thinking. So then we went into building the goals of the project, and talk to me about what that experience was and what you took away from it.
First, you had to define it, what the goals were. So I think that's always helpful to just be put on the spot and say, what are the goals of this project? What are we doing? Because, that's often something that happens at the very beginning of a project. And as it drags on for weeks or sometimes months, sometimes quarters, you get into it more and you can forget the original reasoning why you're, lose the forest to the trees type of thing. So I think that was one. And then it was really challenging and kind of felt weird for you to be like, make the goals of this project into a visual representation or a built representation of, what it would, what it would look like, what it would be like. And I think, again, it just came down to, okay, if I can't use my words and I have to use Legos to describe what I'm looking for, what are the elements that I'm looking for? How would I do that? And it, breaking down the constructs of the needs of the project into just this very simple output of, these different Lego pieces, made me break down the challenges, the outcomes, all that stuff in a much more simple way as well, because I needed to use Legos to convey that out in some sort of way. Like we definitely described why we were doing, which is a lot of what the Post-it notes are too, is describing what this looked like in our thought process. But the piece itself was the conversation starter and had to make some sort of sense. You couldn't just make anything and not have it make sense.
Yeah. So you folks each built, everyone had a different piece of the rubric, which were the goals. If each piece was to go strong, what would that look like? And I'm sure you've heard, I think someone even brought it up in the meeting. There's that old, like, explain it to me like I'm 6. Well, this is the explain it to me, but with Lego.
Yep.
And what does each piece, and then we put them all together here. And so just remind me what there was a divide here that we got to where that Lego minifigure and their wand, there was a fork that this build actually brought up an epiphany. Going
Yeah.
to the right was like an easier direction, going to the left was harder, but really important.
Yeah. So for us, a lot of it is, HubSpot, and, anybody listening at HubSpot knows this, but anybody who's listening from outside of HubSpot, puts a big emphasis on solving for the customer, which is great. And it's a cornerstone of, HubSpot's customer centricity and everything from the way we build the product to the way we engage with customers, et cetera. But oftentimes, what solving for the customer can do for our CSMs is make them feel like they need to answer, the question they just got asked by the customer, or give the customer exactly what they ask for exactly when they ask it. And we lose some of that comfort with asking, well, why are you asking me this question? Like, what are you trying to do? Or how does this solve for your business? Or what business process does it solve for? And customer says, show me how to do X with HubSpot. And we say, cool, solve for the customer. Here's how you do X with HubSpot. Are you happy? And the customer, in fairness, a lot of times be like, yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. But what we're looking to grow and stretch all of, the CSMs on the team on is not just doing that. I mean, that's important, that skill set and that knowledge set of the tool, but also helping the customer kind of step back and understand the why behind what they're trying to do. Because A, they may be doing it the wrong way, or they may be thinking about it the wrong way. B, there could be expanded usage that they could be doing. And again, I was talking about trying to drive usage. And C, they could be making short-sighted decisions that in the long term, with a tool like HubSpot, you only have your clean HubSpot portal without a lot of data in it for so long before you can start, like any other CRM or marketing automation tool, like you start putting bad data in there or getting messy with it, and you then are going to need to clean that up later. So these are oftentimes decisions that, the CSMs on our team could be helping customers avoid mistakes in the future if they just ask, one or two more kind of uncomfortable questions around the why and the what business problems to solve, et cetera. So that gap, which I think you see kind of right after the Lego dude with the wand, is the one on the left, or the one closer to the other side of the table with the green tower, is just kind of like the easy way of doing it. And then the one closer, if my memory serves, was just like represented like the layered nuance that a CSM can get into in those conversations. But we put a little flag on top because like that was the goal of the call as well.
Yeah, one side they're both green. You could feel like they're both the direction to go to, but it's very easy to kind of miss the fact that there is actually a flag
Yeah.
on that one, that and the post it says, it's hard, but it's a prize. And it's hard for the CSM, but it's where the customer actually gets the most value. And it's hard to say to somebody, like, I'm gonna ask you some tough questions, but ultimately this is gonna make your usage of what you're paying for stronger.
Yep.
And also added benefit, when they get off the phone a few days later, they're actually trying to put it into motion. They're going to remember what they were looking to get out of it, as opposed to just the step-by-step tools. So the first pass, with Lego Serious Play is always build where you want to go. We take a backwards planning method. This is that ideal, but you would be leaving bricks on the table. We've got that nice pile over there, which actually accents my point here. If we didn't think through some of the deeper pieces, just like what you're trying to do with your customers, like, but wait a second, what are some of the challenges, the obstacles, the things that we need to be really intentional about? So the next piece was building key challenges. So talk to me about what you folks did in your builds at this point.
I'm looking at the things that this is a little bit ago, so I'm trying to remember all the things. All right. So, the challenges that we are facing is just like a lot of it involves scale. I mean, we are the scaled CS team, and the sheer number of customers that we're engaging with and that we're trying to delight on a monthly basis is relatively large. And to date, this is something where there's a lot of opportunity for us to scale our impact out wider. So, we were trying to highlight and kind of build through the Lego pieces, the representation of some of those challenges. Everything from, not taking the easy way, going the more difficult way, like giving the CSM kind of the power and the confidence to go on that right side as opposed to the easy way, which we also represented with that little X, which I think is actually a helicopter blade, but that's the beauty of Legos. It can be anything. And things like we need to, and then up in the top, you can see that is supposed to be almost like a funnel where there's varying degrees of health of the usage of the customer. And then depending upon that, it funnels down to the CSM to engage with them if they reach a point where we dictate they need to. So, those are some of the things that the realities of where we're at, where we're like, we can't talk to every customer every time when their usage slips. So we need to get focused. We need to build that funnel. And we also need to, there's some very logistical components that stand in the way of this, like the way we incentivize and measure CSMs today. They're almost incentivized to have more conversations, just a numbers based, like go talk to more people as opposed to talk to a good number of people, but talk to them really, really well. And that really, really well piece is really what we're trying to lean on our work with you and the rubric to dictate.
Yeah. By having it all laid out in this manner, you folks were able to start to realize some self-created challenges.
Oh,
That was really great, was to say, like, wait a second, like we have metrics that are pushing people down the other path, the path we don't want them to go. And that's when you put this X, and you're right, it's Lego, it can mean anything. And so whether it's a helicopter blade or a boat propeller or a like obstacle in the path, it was like, okay, let's get them focused, let's get them going down the right side. Here you folks talked about, that spotlight. You wish you could put a
is that what that was? I couldn't remember what that was.
Yeah, it was the spotlight. And it was, hey, you folks have a perspective that no one else has, was one of the things that you were talking about, that when you see it from this perspective, like, wow, this is actually a privileged view. I see into a customer's portal. I can ask them questions and see it from a different perspective. And that's hopefully really empowering once you share that out. Awesome. So, what do you feel like in the end you would say was like the most important thing you took away from the build day?
There's a lot. I mean, just seeing it all laid out so clearly. I think we're on the right track. I think we're doing the right things. I think we're thinking about the right things. So that validation of approach is certainly a good one. And for us, the timing was good because there were a couple of other like larger scale company initiatives around usage and the enablement components that go into driving usage and stuff, where we said, okay, we need to be intentional. We already have enough splits in this kind of desired outcome and journey. We need to be intentional about like pushing all of this together in one cohesive package so that it's easier for the CSMs on the team to leverage, digest, use, and get value out of, as opposed to just having, which is a very standard kind of HubSpot way of just having like these little sprints of enablement, and that like all are going towards the same place but aren't necessarily packaged together and said like this is all intentionally put together to help you drive better outcomes with customers, have better calls, upskill yourself as well. So I think that was the second thing. And then the third thing was just breaking down, like really hammering home the importance of this kind of being like the rubric we're working with you and our existing usage push being kind of like a yin and yang type of approach, where like they can both exist in almost like these little silos. Like we shouldn't change either one of them, but they should be kind of interdependent and connected to one another. And that's okay that they each have shortcomings, but when you put them together in kind of that way, them both coexisting at the same time overcomes those shortcomings, if I'm explaining myself clearly.
Yeah, I think also it was, as we built them and you put them in and that spotlight, that was one of the gifts that you folks built and dropped. It was realizing that, if you like that analogy of the yin and the yang, there are things along that border of that curve that actually bring them closer together. And that goes back to what were we trying to do? We're trying to bring these two projects together. So,
Yep.
Awesome. Anything else you think folks need to hear about the project?
No, I think the more we stress test these ideas and the more we ask the hard questions on these ideas, I think that the closer we get to being perfect, ready, good to go, whatever it is. I don't think anything's ever perfect, but it's just the continued investment that we've got in this project to make sure that this is realistic, tangible, easy to execute, and impactful for both, again, the customers first and then the CSMs as well, to have very clear vision of what good looks like, and not just being stuck as tactical as we have been in the past with usage, I think is really what this helped hammer home for us.
Well, Jeff, thank you first off for just being a part of the project. It's been great to work with you on this.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks for being open to Legos. I told you I was gonna bring something ridiculous to the onsite and ask that y'all give it a chance, and you super did. And thanks for meeting today to talk through what the experience was like.
Yeah, my pleasure all around, and thanks for your guidance during this. I think we're definitely getting to a better spot where this is going to be more ready for prime time.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.